So I apologize if I'm not enough up to date because the grant, we were doing grant into 3 in the morning and then again starting at 7 a.m. So forgive me if I'm a little, it's my third cup of coffee and I gotta get this over with today and then take a good sleep tonight. But it's out, fingers crossed. AIM really needs this, but of course also society needs this. This is an integrative substance abuse disorder program as well as chronic pain program for the DC most vulnerable residents. So you know the drill. If you can type the question, go ahead and do so. We have about maybe 15 minutes before Luci takes over. Luci, thanks so much for being here today. It's so wonderful to have you back with us. You become a regular. So, meantime, I do have a couple of things to update you. You know, COVID is not giving in. In fact, it's giving up, or no, opposite of giving up. You know what I'm trying to say. Russian language is very simple. Like you can just turn anything into anything with opposite. Like,
Giving out.
yeah, we can't do that with English easily. Anyway, so the West Coast is doing horribly. You guys may have seen it's up to 12 to 13% of entire population has been positive on the random sampling. We're doing a bit better. We've been doing about 30% better. So we're about in the single digits still on this side of the US. Will we track into what's going on over there? I don't know. This whole uncertainty with the vaccine booster is a little unnerving just when the numbers keep going up. So, you know, but it is what it is. Good news is that even this newest variant, the XPG, I believe it's a Stratus, which is now over 60% of all of the circulating strains, seems to be not more virulent. It's just more contagious, slightly more contagious, but people don't get sicker. They have somewhat slightly different set of symptoms. The lack of smell and taste is back. A lot of patients are now telling me that. There was a long period that this symptom wasn't part or was unusual. Now it's sort of, I've seen multiple patients already in the last few weeks, like 2 or 3 complaining of that. So if you do get it, and even if you test negative, I mean, it's just presume. Increase amount of tests not picking things up. I'm guessing it's because many of us have tests that expired and not good already. Because we're still using, like I still have like 2 boxes, so I still have 4 tests back from, and they're expired, so they may already not be good. So that's COVID updates. We had a really sweet discussion. Susan, thanks so much for telling us about your experience. So Suzanne said that she was able to get it in Maryland, the new updated vaccine. I was looking all over the internet trying to figure out what's the formal distribution going to look like and when, and I couldn't find anything except this fall. I mean, that's very precise. Thanks, CDC. You know my opinion. I'm getting more and more frustrated with everything that's happening, but of course, you know, you're all probably in the same boat. So anyway, that's all I have about the COVID. So if you have questions, drop them in. Meantime, I have a couple other things. There's some announcements, and I finally, despite being as busy as always, I was able to kind of restart doing more videos. So let me bring the most recent video up, and I'm just going to say a couple of words about it. We touched up on this topic a couple of weeks ago. So this is a topic of use of lithium for prevention and treatment of Alzheimer's disease. You may have seen several large media outlets commenting on this study. So this was a study published in Nature by a Harvard group. So it's a very solid research saying that patients who have Alzheimer's have much higher risk of lithium deficiency, and also in mice, you can reverse some components of Alzheimer's by giving what's called a trace amount doses of lithium. We're not talking about lithium from batteries. Just clear that out, okay? Even same element, but we're not talking about the amounts in batteries. If you swallow a battery thinking you will cure your Alzheimer's, you'll be up for a really bad surprise, so please don't do that. And we're also not talking about lithium for psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia, bipolar disease, and manic episodes when the lithium at very high doses used as a mood stabilizer. We're talking about microdosing in essence, so somewhere between 5 to 10 milligrams. If you're very savvy consumer, go ahead and read the study. The YouTube link that I just posted has all of the links you're going to need in the description, so I'm not going to repost it here. And I did talk a little bit about my experience. I do think that the new form of lithium called lithium ascorbate is going to be the winner. We do now have that access to the lithium ascorbate, this brand called Normatim. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it directly from their website. And I think there's a discount code. I believe it's Dr. Kogan. I asked him to change that. I don't like the discount code being my name, so I think they're going to change it to GW hopefully. It's a small discount. The product is very cheap. Lithium is very, very inexpensive. And you will see that in an article, I do argue that it's probably worth starting to test a lot of people for lithium. US is not very high in lithium in water and earth. The whole topic came out from about 20 years ago when there were multiple epidemiologic studies saying countries that have a higher natural prevalence of lithium in water and soil seeing dramatically lower risks of Alzheimer's disease. So, of course, that's not a causation, that's an association. You can't just say, oh, well, so the lithium deficiency causes Alzheimer's. No. No, but what we clearly know now, and this study is very helpful at clarifying a lot of this, is that the lithium is critical in clearing the plaque. So there's definitely a component of neuroprotection that occurs with the microdoses of lithium. And chances are that this is a real causation. Of course, it's not the only trigger for Alzheimer's. As you know, there's 30 to 50 triggers. This is only one, but nonetheless, it's an interesting topic. So enjoy if you're going to do this. Okay, we have very few minutes. So that was one update. The other update, it's real quick. It's not even an update. I just want to post a link. You may have heard us already talking that AIM is sponsoring the retreat. It's a 90-minute online virtual retreat called Beating Heart. And it's a partnership between AIM and two people from National Academies of Sciences, the head of Arts and Science program, Dr. Talasek, and also Fred Johnson, who's a voice artist, Sufi mystic. And currently he's the resident artist at NAS, or artist in residence at NAS. So every year, NAS picks one artist whom they fund to provide artistic support to the NAS. So I hope you join. It's free. We're going to, in future, raise funds. So we really hope you will support this activity, because we're going to create some kind of write-ups, and we also want your opinion. We want your input, what this is going to be. And at this event, I'm also going to make a pretty significant announcement about some of the future offerings, the free offerings that AIM is going to start doing. Some will be free, some will not be. It will be a mix of things, so it'll be also important if you show up. Now, let's do questions. How is lithium deficiency? Yeah, so you can run the lithium test in the blood, not with Quest the LabCorp. You do need specialized tests. We used several different ones. We use Quicksilver Diagnostics. We also sometimes use Genova. There are a few other tests that's run. Vibrant Health is one. So there are multiple different functional companies. Unfortunately, the current lithium through insurance only looks for toxic levels. It doesn't look for healthy levels. They only look for lithium when you take high dose lithium, so you don't get toxic from it. That's how the toxicity gets assessed by the level. But you can also choose to simply take a little bit of lithium, believe it or not. You can also choose to eat foods high in lithium. Unfortunately, I think I forgot to put the link to that in the video. I'm actually going to edit this. Thanks, that just thought of that. I'm going to add a table of some sort to the description describing which foods are good to eat. Some foods have pretty good amount of lithium, but naturally the most standard typical long-term access to the lithium is from the water. And of course, many of us either filter water or drink bottled water that may not have enough lithium. Well, I guess that's my cue. Thanks, Janet. So what we'll do is you may have more questions after Luci, so we'll have time. We'll have more time for Q&A. If you have questions for Luci when she finishes, or for me, just we'll do another Q&A before we do the mind body practice. All right, Luci, take us. Take the hot seat.
Hello. Well, I'm going to do some slides today. Woohoo. Let's see. And unfortunately, I have to show you all these down the side because I don't know how to back it up if I make a mistake. So you're going to see my little small pieces there. But hi, everyone. Nice to see you again if I've seen you already. I'm an integrative leadership coach. Clients come to me to improve their leadership abilities, and they know I've been in the health industry teaching and educating for a long time, over 20 years, probably over 25 now. So I've also taught nutrition as an adjunct for George Washington University School of Integrative Medicine and another class or two there. And my clients and students are like you. They are well educated. They're well read. They know that their self care habits ultimately fuel the performance in life and at work and either enable them to do great things or stand in their way of doing great things. So, I came from a health sciences background. My education was first pre med, then nutrition, then exercise physiology with an emphasis on genetics. And I paid for my schooling by personal training and nutrition coaching and teaching exercise classes. And believe it or not, my view of self care, maybe the same as yours, was that it was personal. And even though it was important, it was definitely another separate area of my life from work or other important things. And in my first leadership role, I was in my 20s. I was hired to run a health club and spa in Asia. I had a lot to learn, of course. I wanted to be great, though, at my work, and I wanted to be a leader that people truly could follow. But what I didn't know was that, well, I found out many years after that first position, I could sustain my energy and mental focus and a true presence with other people from the health habits I maintained in the background. And my leadership was bolstered from what I was doing behind the scenes when I wasn't in front of everyone else. And that's really kind of the opposite of what most people think. They think, I'll put my work first, and then I'll put my relationships second, and then maybe I'll take care of my health. And I realize that you here in this audience might be a little bit different. And also, we're in a different time right now than we were when I first started. There's a lot of research and information coming out now about how your health habits affect your brain and your emotions and your capacity for creativity and problem solving and relationship building. So I know I'm speaking to this kind of well-read audience, and you probably already know a lot about taking care of yourself and your health, and you've probably tried a lot of different tactics, whether they're related to diet and exercise, sleep, or supplements, and you may have already found some techniques that work for you. So what are we going to talk about today, you might be wondering? I already covered that. We're going to talk about barriers to improving health habits. Um, what happens when you want to get even better at taking care of yourself? When you want to become even healthier, you want to raise it up a notch or improve something that you're doing that there's room for improvement on. Well, what stops you? Do you feel like it's overwhelming? Is it because it's just too much to take on over and above your already busy life? That's what I want you to think about. Do you think about that actually? Why am I not doing this thing that I keep saying I want to do, right? And if that's you, you're not alone. This is the same for so many people who try to pick up a new habit, whether it's their first habit for health or their 10th. The NIH finds that 7 out of 10 deaths in the United States are the result of chronic diseases, which for many people can be prevented by simply making good health choices like the ones we're talking about today, getting your shots, but also all the other parts of health, right, that come into play. And yet, simply knowing these facts isn't enough to motivate most people to adopt long-term habit change. Why is that? There are many well-known, commonly discussed tactics. Track your steps, keep healthier foods in the house, follow a diet plan, turn off your phone before bed. But these tactics don't work for everyone, nor are they easy for people to keep going. Stanford Center for Longevity finds that 95% of New Year's resolutions are abandoned by the end of January. And there's much research about why people can't stick to healthy habits. By the way, that was this year's research, 95%. So New Year's resolutions also seem to be the habits with the most research, but there's a lot of research out there. These just tend to be like the easiest habits to research, habit changes to research. So why don't healthy habits stick? Well, based on the research out there now, and the experience I've had with working with hundreds of people at this time, I'll say, from my view, there are three main reasons. And the main reasons I see most people failing at making healthy changes is because people bite off too much. For example, a total diet plan. Even if it's made for you diet, it requires you to rethink your food, reorganize all of your normal habits to fit the diet plan. It may or may not fit into your current life or the life people you live with or eat with. You may need to have several different meals and menus for everyone in the family. Another example is going to the gym. If you haven't gone to the gym in months and now you want to go 5 days per week, first of all, you're going to have to carve out that extra time all at once. Second of all, you may not know how to properly ramp it up. When I was a personal trainer, I was always having to pull people back from going too fast, because when you require too much of yourself in the beginning, it's more likely you're going to injure yourself. So people bite off too much in the beginning and they get discouraged because they've been working so hard and they haven't gotten as far as they want to, and it seems like too much effort for too little results, even though most people know things take time to have an effect. And even when we're trying to adopt new sleep patterns, we can take on too much. We can try going to sleep an hour earlier, and yet we haven't figured out the plan for how we're going to finish our day, how we're going to close up everything and feel less pressured and more relaxed so we can actually fall asleep. We haven't had the plan for what we're going to do with dinner. What about the exercise? There's a lot to think about when it comes to changing your sleep habits. Also, you're busy, and making lifestyle and health habit changes takes mental energy and physical energy. The bigger the bite, the more energy it takes. I think you see where I'm going here, right? And when you start feeling discouraged, you start feeling like you're a failure at these things. You can't have a healthy lifestyle because or that balance that you want because you've tried so many times and failed. And then we look around and we see everyone else who doesn't have healthy habits, and maybe you just accept that you're going to be like everyone else. I mean, that's just the way of the world, right? But that's just not true. Here is my answer. It's called high leverage shifts. In my work, I found that most people fail at making healthy habit changes because, they bite off more than they can chew. The new habits don't fit into their lifestyle. Most likely these weren't even something they enjoyed, and they just couldn't wait to get back to regular life. And how we make healthy, successful habit changes then is small shifts that are so small it barely feels noticeable. You can habit stack them. which means it fits into your current schedule and life. They're easy to build in a motivating factor, and we'll talk more about what that is too. And they produce high leverage results when they're done regularly. There are essentially two areas of high leverage shifts that really work, and one is physical and the other one is mental. So we're going to talk about the physical part today because we don't have that much time. But we know that high leverage physical habits revolve around essentially proper nutrition, exercise, and enough high quality sleep. Of course, there's vaccinations, which I didn't put in here. But I want to share a few high leverage shift examples in each of these categories so you get an idea about what I'm talking about. Let's talk about nutrition. I'm just going to pick a high leverage shift, and we'll talk about whether it fits into these categories, whether we can check these boxes. Drink water before coffee in the morning. This is very small stuff. It's simply 1 cup of water in the morning. Is it small? Yes. Does it habit stack? Well, when you're in the kitchen already drinking coffee, you may even be waiting for your coffee, you're making your coffee, whatever, just drink a cup of water. So yes, it habit stacks. Is there a built-in motivating factor? Well, you get to drink your coffee after you have your water. Yes. Does it produce high leverage results? Your body is made up of around 75% water. Your brain, about 80%. Water is a necessary nutrient for brain and body to have optimal performance during the day, and slight dehydration has been shown to reduce your mental capacity. Considering you've gone at least 8 hours or more through the night without having any, that cup of water or more, you might drink more, is going to boost the effects of your first coffee, giving you the mental energy that you're really looking for. So yes, I'd call this a high leverage shift. And can you tell this one small thing is going to have a lot more results over time? About a week is a good time to spend on a new habit to see compound results. But with this one thing, you probably see it within minutes, honestly. So I think I'm not sure if I have time for 2 more. They're 2 minutes each. What do you think? Do I have an extra 5 minutes? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. We'll just go into exercise then for high leverage exercise shift. So I'm going to pick before coming home from work, before getting out, before entering into your home from work, get out of the car and take a 10-minute walk before you enter your house. Is it small? You decide. Is this something you can physically do, or does it need to be smaller? Does this habit stack? Well, it stacks right onto your regular work commute. It doesn't change much of your schedule at all, right? Is there a built-in motivating factor? Well, yeah, you get to go into the house after you've done your walk. And does it have high leverage? Yes. Let's think about it. 10 minutes per day after work equals 50 minutes of additional movement for the week at a 5-day work week. This is a great way to get started adding some extra movement whenever we take a walk. If it's as short as 10 minutes, you're also raising your metabolism and lowering your blood pressure. Research shows that when we walk outside without looking at our cell phones or thinking about work or stressful events, it helps our brain to regulate. It calms us down. It takes away the fight, flight, freeze state that work often puts us in, and we start to reduce the cortisol levels in our bodies from the stress we had throughout the day. And this is also the mental state where creativity, optimal problem solving, and outside the box thinking happens. The more 10-minute walks in your day, the better. And of course, longer exercise sessions are important too. But little breaks throughout the day add up to a lot. And in fact, there's a name for it now. It's called exercise snacking. And finally, let's do a rest, sleep, high leverage example. Turning down the lights 1 hour before bed and staying off your phone and computer 1 hour before bed. Is it easy? Well, it's much easier than getting to sleep an hour earlier, which most likely requires you to have all those changes I mentioned earlier. And then you have a whole race before you jump into bed, giving yourself high blood pressure and high heart rate. Anybody been there? Me. I've been there. In bed, heart racing. I made it. So, does this habit stack? Yes. You can just do similar things that you used to, except you're turning down the lights. There's new research showing that when we watch TV from 6 feet away or more, it actually doesn't disturb your eyes as much as the phone. So we can relax a little bit about that. Is there built-in motivation? You'll probably feel this benefit right away because it helps you to relax. So falling asleep is easier, and feeling the benefits of something is a motivator within itself. So once you feel a benefit of something, that's why another reason why such small things really work, because that is a high motivator. Does it have high leverage? Well, you get to sleep faster, you get more sleep, typically better, deeper sleep when we get more sleep. And as we sleep, our brain clears wastes, organizes and sorts memories, shores itself up against Alzheimer's, and your body also recovers and repairs. 1 hour can mean a lot in terms of getting all of your REM and deep sleep. And optimal sleep means that you're more energized throughout the day, you make better decisions, you're happier, you can focus better, you remember more, and you can be more present with others. So, is this a high leverage shift? I would say yes. So I just gave you some examples. Think about one of these. If you accomplished one of these three goals and kept going at it indefinitely, do you think it would make a big difference in your life? Ultimately, absolutely. New Year's is a big push time for making health changes, but obviously we can decide to make changes at any time. And if you decide to make a few changes now, moving into the holiday season, I know it's early, right? But it's not. But if you make some now, you start off at a better place. And if you fall back on your health habits a bit or choose to indulge a bit, you'll also be in a better place than if you hadn't made some shifts starting now. So, if you're embarking on some health improvements, consider the high leverage shift method I shared with you today. And I'm sharing with you my emails here, and we can talk about how it can work for you if you want to send me an email and have a deeper conversation about the mental side as well. And I'm also, interestingly enough, I happen to be getting a small community together for people who want to make a series of high leverage shifts this fall before the holidays set in. So if you want to be notified of when this happens, you can email me. I'm also on social media, pretty much all social media, as myself, Luci Gabel. And my website is lucigabel.com. It was great to see you all today.
All right, so let me add spotlight for myself. Lisa, stay here for a second. Let's see if folks have questions. There's one question Jennifer has in the chat, so I don't know if you want to. It's not a question;
Sure.
it's a comment. So.
If you don't get home from work anymore, can still take a spin around the block before breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Yes, exercise, snacking. Great. And yes, that's one thing that I do. Right after breakfast, I go for a walk. I know the distance of all of my blocks. So if I have 10 minutes, I know where to go. If I have 20 minutes, I know where to go. I come back and then work because I've given all that blood energy to my brain. And now I can be more focused. Plus, we talked about being outside in nature and what it does for the brain.
That's great.
All right, thank you.
My wife Angela has it. She forces her to do this because somebody has to walk the dogs immediately after we eat. Just a routine. Otherwise, you either walk them or you clean after them. So that's your choice. So she chooses to walk them.
That's
I,
great. Yeah, she motivation factor built in right there.
yeah.
I love it.
All right. So, and yeah, so Linda, thank you. So you can ask any questions at this point for either for Lucy and for me. So we'll do about 5 more minutes for questions, and then we'll do the mind body practice. If you had COVID this year, how long might you have immunity? This so these questions are now very, very hard to ask because the reality is the immunity to prevent another COVID is probably very short-lived, maybe a month or a couple of months. But it's probably going to be good for a long time to have a protection against serious illness. So probably 6 to 12 months. And again, I do not care what CDC says. I don't trust them. I don't believe anything they say anymore. So please, I don't, you can follow their guidance by all means, be my guest, but I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you what I think. CDC at this point has to sort of comply with the current administration. And I don't think there's any real good sense of understanding of what's happening on upper levels or any interest in sort of continuing carefully and strategically manage this issue. So yeah, it sounds like they have bigger fish to fry at this point, and they're not very interested in this. So we can't rely on that. Because of that, my opinion is definitely for one season, if you had a COVID, I would even skip the shot for sure. So if you had a COVID in the last 6 months, I would not get the updated vaccine. I'll just wait till the next season. That's my opinion. Now, of course, it's going to get a bit more individualized. Maybe you got COVID in January. That could be a bit different. So you're going to have to sort of be a little bit more personal. But if the COVID was in the last few months, yeah, absolutely no vaccine. Doesn't make any sense to me, to my understanding of science. Given the stats, would you suggest masking in a crowd? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Especially I would suggest masking if it makes you feel better. Like if it makes you just be more comfortable in the crowd. Just don't feel bad, mask on, and that's it. And trust me, you're better safe than sorry. And definitely also consider where you are, right? If you're in a crowded environment, relatively speaking, but you're outdoors, well, it's probably lower risk. If you're indoors, particularly in a situation where ventilation is poor, then of course, trains, buses, planes, supposedly all the planes continue to use the HEPA filters. Now, whether that's enough, I'm not sure. Definitely singing groups is a huge, I'm glad you brought this up. Singing groups is a pretty good big risk if it's a very large chorus, right? Because when you're singing, you're really putting out a lot of air. And so if any one person is infected close to you, it doesn't matter how big the space is, there's much higher chance because you're standing and you're singing next to them for quite a while, inhaling. So yes, I would consider that. Except that, of course, how are you going to mask up in a chorus? I don't know. There are some issues here which are really hard to address, right? I mean, they're kind of logistical nightmares. Or let's say you go into a restaurant, okay, you may be able to mask up in between the bites, but I mean, come on. Yeah, this is not going to work. You went there to eat. You're going to have to, you can't just cover the nose. So there are certain things that's just not going to work, period. When should we get the new vaccine, an hour later? Well, that's a great question. I actually, so with flu, my position. Do not get an early vaccine. Wait until as late as possible. As late as possible, meaning when the first cases of flu show up, that's when to get the flu shot. With this, it's probably the opposite. With this, it's probably the earlier the better. With the caveat that you can actually get the new one. Do not get the old one. They're just not useful anymore because they basically do not include the newer strains, and so they're going to be much less efficacious. And if you can wait for some weeks or maybe a month or two, absolutely wait. So yeah, Carice, thank you for this. That's exactly, yeah. That there's no real. It feels for the moment that we're in a zoo of misinformation, and it's very frustrating. you know, yes, Cleveland Clinic, I would trust them. I would trust the large institutions like Harvard and Mayo. especially if they're relatively independent, right? So that if they're not controlled by any outside interests, I would trust. And yes, I would trust, I would trust non-government organizations that have a strong, that there's a strong history, so of trust. No, so I don't recommend vaccine to everybody. And not because I really don't think that young healthy people need it. Moreover, I have some concern about mRNA component and some hyperimmunity that we're seeing in some patients, sort of this autoimmune component. So I definitely don't suggest vaccines to people with severe allergies or with history of allergic reaction to the vaccine. And there are a lot of people like that. So those probably should not even consider getting boosters at all and just cross fingers that they're gonna get mild version and just rely on innate immunity. Everybody else, and also nowadays I think it is wise to talk to your provider because your individual risk, and I may not understand your particular situation well enough. So our protocol, thanks so much, Janet, for putting it in there. It's actually there are more than GHIS. There's some other things, but we're oh, this is the link, right? No, that's not a link. There should be more stuff in there. Yeah, I think what I can do is let me do this next time. I'll just review it one more time, the vaccine protocol, because by that time, I think more and more people will start getting. DHIST is a combination of quercetin, bromelain, milk thistle, and acetylcysteine and vitamin C. So it's basically a natural histamine blocker. It's not a blocker, histamine antihistamine, let's put it that way. I don't actually recommend getting antihistamine drugs after the shot or before. There's good literature saying it decreases efficacy of the vaccine because you're altering immune response. Don't do it. Natural product DHIS does not do that. It doesn't really block receptors. It's a completely different mechanism of action. And if anything, people do quite better after this protocol. It includes 3 homeopathic remedies as well at the moment of injection and 30 minutes later. So I will put that somewhere at some point. So next time. All right. Well, we're kind of getting close. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our practice. So you guys, let's remove ourselves from our heads because as much as they are wonderful, it's not at the time right now to do so. All right, so find yourself comfortable in a chair. You can lay down if you prefer for this. Make yourself comfortable. That's what's more important for this practice. So this is we call this practice the light practice. I have done it a long time ago, maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And so for this practice, we do need to close our eyes. So I invite you to go ahead and gently close your eyes and imagine that you're sitting in front of a very bright light. So you can imagine that you are facing the sun. Maybe you have your favorite room with a bright fireplace, or maybe it's just a bright ceiling light in your favorite location in your meditation room, whatever it is. So once you're comfortable with this imagery, go ahead and imagine that the glow of this light hitting your body. It's touching your face, your chest, your arms, your legs, your belly. You feel how light penetrates through the skin, under the skin, into all of our tissues. It's actually a physical fact. The light does travel through us. It doesn't stop at us, even though there is a shadow behind us. But actually, some tiny component of light penetrates. And if you're using infrared sauna, for example, the light will penetrate even deeper. So we're dense the way we think about this, but also we do have this lightness in our energetic field, if you will, however you want to imagine this. So right now you're just immersed in this power of light. You're imagining exposed to the light. You can go ahead and breathe it in. When you take a deep breath in, you can imagine how light travels into your lungs. Of course, we're all imagining this, not really inhaling light per se. Imagine that the light can clean our emotional domain as well as our mind by allowing this external brightness to come in. We're letting our own darkness to be suspended for the time of the practice. We're letting our own frustrations and pain and anything we want to let go of, we can just imagine light entering that physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual space in us. There's no part in us that cannot hide from this light. There's no any dishonesty or hypocrisy or anything like that that cannot be blasted by this power of light. One has to lend oneself to this action and feel like a crystal that has every molecule aligned with the light, creating this reflective phenomena. So the second stage of this practice, now that you're aware of a glow around your body, now start becoming aware of your own glow. Again, scientific fact, we're dense creatures, but we are emitting light all the time. It's hard to measure, but it's there. So imagine that we're enhancing this by putting attention and awareness on this capacity. We're enhancing our glow. We're no longer passive absorbents or passive recipients of the light. We're now active reciprocators. We take the light from outside in, and then we reflect it out, just like crystal would. And now realize that the center of this glow is your heart, the middle of your chest. Wherever we think of the heart chakra, the heart center. But of course, it's not limited to the heart. It reaches out like the sun, stretching its rays further and further afield. And so you can imagine that you're radiating this light from your heart into all directions. So let's take a couple of minutes here just experiencing this external light becoming internal and then being reflected back into the world. Allow the light to reach as far as you can imagine. If the light is not stopped by a particular means, maybe the magnetic field or some impermeable surface, it will travel forever. It will go to the edges of the universe and beyond. So keep that in mind. I think we have a lot more power of transformation that's coming from within. Now let's gently, slowly begin to let go of concentrating on the light while still fully staying present inside the heart. center your breath to come in and out the heart. And just stay concentrated on that area. Hopefully by now you feel balanced. You feel that there's a bit less of negativity. Maybe there's more energy. Maybe there's less energy. Maybe you feel suddenly very sleepy. That's all fine. Whatever the body feels, let it feel it. And see if you can connect your breath to your heart. You can imagine, if you can sense the pulse, you can breathe for 4 or 5 or 6 heartbeats in, and then hold for a couple of heartbeats, maybe 2 or 3, and then exhale for the same 5, 6 heartbeats. And keep your breath comfortable. Don't strain it. And see if your heart sends you any messages. Tune a little bit deeper into the subconsciousness here. What is your soul truly desires? That's really the core of the practice. We're purifying our heart center so that we fully connect to what our soul's deepest desire is. It doesn't have to be something profound. Maybe it's just being happy for today, or maybe it's going and buying a bouquet of beautiful flowers for your loved one, or taking your dogs for a walk. Whatever it is, this is yours. It has just as much value as everything else. Stay connected to the heart. Keep your breath steady. Gradually let go of counts and specific concentrations on the breath. Just stay in the presence of the shift that has occurred while you're still breathing in and out of the heart. And you can also think love, inhale. And then when you exhale, you can release it back into the world, thinking compassion, love, and compassion. We inhale love for ourselves, realizing that that's the ultimate power that drives our actions in our world. And then when we exhale, when we let go of the energy given to us, giving it back, we're giving it with a full compassion of our capacity of our being. And put your hands right over the belly button. Doesn't matter which one's on top of which, whatever's comfortable. Just hold this breath. Continue slowly, gently breathing, but pretty deeply. Basking in this newly discovered heart space. Let's slowly begin to come back. Maybe let's do little stretches because sometimes it's important to not let the energy kind of get stuck. So inhale, bring your hands up. And then exhale, bring them down. Kind of wash your body with the energy generated. And we'll do 2 more. Inhale up. Exhale down. And 1 more time. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I think we're going to end just a couple of minutes early and give you guys time for asking me questions. I see that Linda had a question, but let's hold that for the next. I think I rather at this point we just have any specific comments on anything else from today. And then if you need to stay to talk to me, do so. And Janet, if you're still here, what do we have next week? Okay, so next week we have one of our AIM board members. Actually, Sophia is now our